Avui tenim el plaer d'estar amb l'Azar Mashdub, formador, traductor i intèrprete, consultor de formació, expert en idiomes i comunicació, formador en idiomes en diverses empreses nacionals i multinacionals. L'Azar presentarà la conferència Els essencials d'una entrevista de feina en anglès, que tindrà una duració de 30 minuts. Seguidament, dedicarem els últims 15 minuts a respondre les preguntes que podeu anar fent a través del xat. En aquest webinar en directe es tractaran els aspectes essencials d'una entrevista de treball en anglès. Què fer i què no fer. Tenim visitants, ens diuen, connectats des de diferents parts del món, com Barcelona, València, Mallorca, El Salvador, Argentina, Bèlgica. I ara sí, Azar, et cedim la paraula. Moltes gràcies, endavant.
Moltes gràcies, Paz. Comencem. Només fer un petit apunt, que la conferència serà en anglès i després el torn de preguntes, si voleu, el podem fer en català o castellà. Comparteixo la meva pantalla amb vosaltres. And here we go. So, as Paz said before, the title of the conference is, as you can see on screen in Catalan, què cal fer i què no cal fer en una entrevista de feina en anglès. So let's start right away. Of course, when it comes to a job interview, one of the most important things is your attitude towards the, in this case, towards the interview and towards the interviewer. You want to help the interviewer understand your motivation, skills, and expertise. So that's I would say, attitude or our main goal. And of course, it goes without saying that we should always maintain a positive and professional attitude throughout the interview. And so, how do we do that? Okay, so that's our goal. How do we do that? And of course, this goal is to give the hiring manager confidence in your ability to fit into the company's culture. Keep in mind, guys, that we are talking about job interview. So the only tool that we have is communication. You have to communicate with another person, or probably a team of 2 or 3 people. So that's your first contact, I would say. And to achieve that goal, we have to achieve a successful communication. That goal is achievable only through successful communication. So when something is achievable through successful communication, we have to ask ourselves, are we good communicators? And that's not, if I'm honest with you, that's not an easy question to answer. If you want to know if you are a good communicator, probably you should ask other people, okay? Unless you are a communication professional, you should ask our people, ask around, ask colleagues from your last job, from your current job, ask your family or friends and ask them, do you think I am a good communicator? Once you're clear on the answer, you have to think about your forte. And forte in English means, what is your strength? Is it spoken communication? Is it written communication? So once we are clear on that, that's our strategy to tackle the interview. If we think that we are, that our forte is spoken, okay, well, I have to work on that. I have to practice. And during the job interview, I have to keep that in mind. If I think that my forte is written communication, well, of course, I have to reflect that on my resume and on my cover letter. And of course, you can reflect that in the follow-up email. So after the job interview is done, you go back home and then you write a follow-up email highlighting what you think were, I would say, the good points in the interview or during the interview. Now, moving on. If we talk about the basics, so the most common questions, of course, a quick Google search will show you hundreds and hundreds of the most common questions in job interview. Well, yes, but what we are interested in is we are interested in the best answers to these questions. So if we don't have a good answer for that question, knowing the question would not matter at all. The best answers to these questions. But first of all, let's take a look at the most questions. So to start with, they're going to ask you about yourself. And absolutely, if you guys have ever done a job interview, one of the first questions is, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. And you have to ace this question, okay? So this is question to ace. This is the easiest question. You know yourself, talk about yourself. But, okay, the question might seem easy, but they don't want to hear details. The person interviewing you, they're not interested in details. They don't know you. They don't want to know everything about you. So probably if they ask you about yourself, you talk about yourself a little bit, your strengths, your weaknesses, your last job, and the highlights of your education. And absolutely, you should keep it short, sweet, and simple. That goes without saying. After that, they're going to probably ask you about your strengths. Okay, so this is a bit tricky. You have to do your research before the job interview. You apply for a job online, you get the email, they wanna have an interview with you, so you do your research. And the research here goes two ways, okay? Goes two ways. You do your research about the company. And of course, when you read the job offer, there's a profile there, okay? They're looking for a specific profile. So from the job offer, you can see what kind of person suits the job, absolutely. And this is going to be your invitation to advertise yourself. And here comes the other research that you have to do. And that's about you, okay? Talk to yourself. Think about your last job, okay? If you've had a job before, think about your last job. If you are recently graduated student, well, welcome to the job market. But think about what are your strengths, okay? And if they match the description in the job offer. Of course, as it says here, your positive qualities need to relate to what they are looking for. Absolutely. So if they are looking for somebody, I would say, who have strong people skills, and they're looking for somebody for customer care or customer service with strong people skills, and you don't have that, well, please do yourself a favor and do not continue applying. But of course, if they are looking for, we want a key account manager for our market in Germany, and then you speak German, you have strong people skills, and then you have the strengths for that. What you should do is to highlight these strengths during the job interview, in the cover letter, in your resume. Highlight these strengths, and that takes you to customizing or personalizing or changing more or less some points in your resume, in your cover letter for each job offer. I know that's cumbersome. I know that takes time. I know it's not easy to do, but at least I think this is one of the keys, okay? Moving on. Of course, if we talk about strengths, we should talk about weaknesses, okay? No one is perfect. And this is, again, this is a tricky question. This is a trick question. No one is perfect, but there is a way to spin it. You should keep in mind that the person interviewing you knows this, knows that if they are interviewing somebody and they have weaknesses, they will try to spin it. But at least you should give it a try. So if they say, and this is a classic, yeah, well, I am a perfectionist. Well, of course, you should spin, instead of perfectionist, you should go with, for example, I have much attention to details. So there is a big difference here, especially in the language, especially in the person, or especially in the impact of the words on the ear. Whenever we hear that somebody's a perfectionist, we go like, well, just don't start, okay? We know you're not a perfectionist, just don't bore people with the details. But if you say, I have attention to details, that's way different. That means you're a caring person. That means you pay attention to your job and how you do it. So this is just a quick example. Of course, we don't have enough time to go into details and talk about other examples, but this is just a quick example on how to spin a weakness. And to spin it means to present it in another way. Another common question, okay, would be about your last job. And of course, they want to find out, why did you leave your last job? In every job interview, they would want to know, why did you leave your last job? Well, different scenarios, okay? You could have quit, resigned, laid off, fired, made redundant, whatever it is. It does not matter, because there is one take here. If you have to talk, or if you are invited to talk about your last job, please do highlight the positive side of your experience. And that's about it. There is nothing else to add. Highlight the positive side of your experience, even if it was the worst experience in your life. I can assure you that a hiring manager or an interviewer, they don't want to hear about past negative experiences in other jobs. Okay, so just go with the positive side of your experience. And even if you were unfairly let go, even if you were unfairly fired from the job, stick with the positive. Okay, and they might set a trap here, and you should not fall into it. And the trap here is that the interviewer may ask you the following question. Tell me about a difficult situation in your previous job, or tell me about somebody from work that you did not get along well with. Or, for example, what did your previous company used to do wrong? So if you are invited, they're giving you the chance to talk about, what did your previous company used to do wrong, for example. Well, please be careful and don't fall into this trap, because it's a set trap. Stick with the positive experience and highlight the positive experience. Once again, even if it was the worst experience in your life, just don't go into the negative side. Moving on here. Of course, they're going to ask you, why do you want the job, etc., etc., and you can go with the basic examples. Okay, well, I'm looking for new challenges. I want to grow with the company, or I want to put my expertise and qualifications to work. At the end, they're not interested in you because you want the job. They're interested in you because of your expertise, because of your track record, because of probably your education. But they're not interested in you as a candidate. They're not interested in the reason why you want the job. That doesn't matter. As long as you are a good fit and you know how to do your job, that's absolutely fine for them. Now, let's talk a bit about education. In education, relevance is key. So you should state what is relevant to the position you are applying for. Of course, some of you, I'm sure that you are guys lifelong learners. Okay, so you've done a million courses. You probably have a degree or two, a master's or a PhD. But of course, we should, even if you have 2 PhDs, 3 masters, 4 degrees, you should stick to what is relevant to the position you are applying for. With that said, still, it is important to prove that you are a lifelong learner. Okay, you still have to let them know, or you should let them know, that you are a lifelong learner, that you like to learn new stuff if the job requires it. But you should avoid talking too much about your titles or diplomas that are not relevant to the job offer. Let's talk now for a bit about the future. So one of the most common question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, so you just have to talk about your goals. Okay, and avoid being overly ambitious. So, for example, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Probably as a COO, as a CFO, as a CEO. No, well, just go ahead and please avoid that. Talk about your goals. They have to be, I would say, logical. They have to be reasonable. Okay, and if your goals are reasonable, just be sincere. Let's take a look at some examples. So, some examples in 5 years. By then, I would have liked to, I don't know, to have improved skills, enhanced knowledge about the company and the company's culture, business, product, services, whatever. I would have to like climb the corporate ladder, of course, promotion. Okay. I would like to be probably a team leader, and that's not overly ambitious. We're talking about 1 or 2 positions above you in 5 years' time, and that's perfectly reasonable. I would like to have more responsibilities, even if you are in the same position, but with more responsibilities. Once again, that's perfectly reasonable. If the company grows, for example, and you know that the company is going to grow, I don't know, probably you're working for a startup, you have the first round, second round of investment, and the company is growing. So it is nice of you to show your interest in growing with the company. Or I would like to widen my horizon, as simple as that. And to widen your horizon is a generic answer to a somehow specific question, and that means all the above: growing with the company, responsibilities, team leadership, climbing the corporate ladder, or improved skills or improved knowledge, etc., etc. Okay, and the next one here is in a job interview. Towards the end of a job interview, they will ask you, "Do you have any questions for me or us?" So believe me, even if the interview was crystal clear, okay, even if you don't have any doubts or questions whatsoever, please do ask. Why is that? Because it shows interest. And you should know that when they ask you any questions for me or for us, this is not the end of the interview. Absolutely. So they still want to hear from you. They still want to know if you are interested in the company. And we show interest through question. And if we have the right question, that means we've done our research. Okay, that means we've absolutely done our research. There is another tricky version of the question, and that is, well, if you don't have any questions for me or for us. That's if here is the trick. Well, your automatic answer should be, sorry, but I actually do. I have a question for you guys. And now let's take a look at some examples. So some examples would be, what kind of projects would I be working on if hired? So you are giving them, or you are showing interest in being hired. That's to start with. And you are showing interest in the company's project. So what kind of project would I be working on if hired? That translates into showing interest on every level. So you show interest on every level. How does a typical day for this position look like? So you want to know the details, and that translates into having a hands-on approach. A hands-on approach means you want to know the details of your position, the day-to-day tasks. I would say, who are you going to be dealing with? What are you going to be doing, etc., etc. And the last one, does the company provide any type of training? And that translates into eagerness to learn. Okay, that translates into eagerness to learn. And what does that mean? That relates, or that refers to what we've seen before. And you show that you are a lifelong learner and you want to learn more, either about the job, your position, the company, its products, services, its markets. It does not matter, but you want to learn something. You want to have to take something out of the experience. Okay, a positive outcome of your experience. Moving on to the next part here, and that is the power of language. As I said before in the beginning, this is a job interview, and a job interview is based on communication. Communication is based on language. So you have the perfect tool here, which is your mouth, your tongue, and your words. But there are some do's and don'ts, as the title of our conference says, do's and don'ts. So let's say here, for example, so this is an example of why we should not be fancy. So don't be fancy. And here we have a short text. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 20 seconds to read the text here. Single-handedly managed the successful upgrade and deployment of new environmental illumination system without cost overruns nor safety incidents. Well, the text here simply translates into I changed light bulbs. That's what it says. I changed light bulbs. Well, in the previous one, as you can see here, we have, sorry, let me go back. Yeah, we have here, don't be fancy. Of course, this is fancy language, okay? If you read this, you probably have to read this 3 or 4 times to understand what was the task. But of course, we should not be flat either. If they ask you about your previous experience, what did you do? Well, I changed light bulbs. You have to find, or you have to strike the balance. When we use, of course, fancy language or abstract words, what does that do is only activate areas of the brain related to language processing. If you give me a text, or if you're telling me something and it is fancy or complicated, etc., etc., I'm not getting the message. I'm not listening to you. I'm hearing words and I'm trying to process them. So that's the only thing. So if your previous job was somehow technical, so please avoid that. Avoid talking about the technicalities of your job or the technical details of your job, because probably the person sitting across the laptop in this case, for example, or across the table from you, they don't know about that. They're not experts in your previous field, okay? They are HR people. They want to know you, not the details of the task. So if you start boring them, and I say boring, if you start boring them with the details, they're going to switch off. They're going to just try to process the language. Same thing goes for your cover letter, and same thing goes for your resume. An example of what we should not do are acronyms. So please avoid them at all costs, okay? Unless absolutely necessary, or unless you are sending your resume to a company that is in the same market as your previous company, okay? So you were working for, I would say, BMW, and then you're going to start working for Cadillac. Both companies are in the automotive industry. They understand the slang, okay? They understand the jargon. So, of course, in that case, no problem. But if you are working for BMW and then you're going to work for, I would say, the World Bank, for example, or you're going to work for Banco Santander or BBVA or something like that, well, avoid the technicalities, okay? Avoid the technical terms, avoid getting into details, because the person, as I said before, across the table from you, they will not understand you. Number 2 here is when applying for, sorry, let's jump to number 3. If you avoid that, if you avoid using technical language, and if you try to simplify what you did before, the interviewer will find you more compelling, will find you more understanding, because you're making it easy on them, okay? You were an engineer before, and then you are explaining your previous experience to them in a simple way. Another example of what we should avoid would be the filler words. Of course, human nature, okay? Filler words are part of human nature. As you can see on the screen, filler words like well, these are what we call filler words. We have other type of filler words. Again, one quick Google search, and you will end up with a list of hundreds of filler words. When we use them, you risk showing a lack of confidence, okay, and the lack of ability to communicate on the job. So if I ask you about your previous job and half of your answer is filler words, what I would automatically think is that either lack of confidence in yourself, okay, you don't like pressure, or your lack of ability to communicate on the job, on your previous job. And of course, you could be the best employee ever, but if you don't know how to communicate what you do, well, we probably have a problem there. And last but not least, how to erase them? Well, slow down and take your time to think. That's the only way. Okay, a job interview is going to be probably 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If they ask you something, just tell them directly, can I please have a couple of minutes to think about that? Especially, for example, and in this case, if the job interview is in English, and English is not your first language, well, of course, take your time. It's another language. It's not my mother tongue. I have to think about what I want to say, okay? And that helps us put our chain of thought and then be intentional about the words. If we think about what we want to say, we're going to be intentional about our words. Moving on here. Once again, there's no shame, as we said before, there's no shame in saying that you would like to think about the answer. And of course, as I said before, if you think through the substance of your message, you will be intentional about the words that comes next. And it's not set in stone. Try new filler words. Okay, talk to yourself and see if you use one or two filler words repeatedly. Well, change them. Okay, or use more than one, more than two, more than three, and they actually help us think about what we want to say. But just try not to use the same filler word once and once again. Okay, moving on here, and now let's talk about this: overdone versus flat. Okay, overdone is what we've seen at the beginning. I single-handedly changed whatever, environmental light. Well, that's overdone. That's fancy language. And then we have flat. Flat is, what did you do in your previous job? I flipped burgers. Well, or I changed light bulbs, or I taught English. That's not enough. Okay, we have to strike a balance in the middle. And how do we do that? Of course, we use power words. And power words is the key takeaway from this conference. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a job interview, it doesn't matter if it's a CV, and it doesn't matter if it's your cover letter. Power words do accomplish something. Okay, so what did they accomplish? They jump off the page. The interviewer or the person reading through your resume, they will see it. Okay, they are extremely useful with applicant tracking systems. Big companies, they use this. They use a software that falls into the category of applicant tracking system. You send in your resume in PDF format. The applicant tracking system has some keywords, and they will pick the resumes or choose or select the resumes that have these keywords. And of course, they show a good command of the language. So let's take a quick look at some examples of power words. First of all, we have action verbs. Okay, action verbs like I accomplished, I designed, I initiated, instead of I did, or made, or talked to. Well, these are power words. These words, they show initiative. Or within the company, I achieved, improved, or supervised. So instead of I did, once again, I achieved. Instead of I made better, I improved. And instead of I was the manager, or I was the boss, I supervised. Okay, once again, the popular skills. Okay, when it comes to skills, or I would say people skills, passion, responsibility, and leadership. And believe me, these words, they jump they jump off the page. And last but not least, the company values. So when we talk about company values, of course, you have to do your research, read through the job offer, take a look at the company's webpage, their mission, their vision, and use words that reflect the company's philosophy, okay? Or at least the overall philosophy of the industry. And that means you did your research and then you show interest. And my last, I would say my last advice to you guys is practice, practice, practice. If practice doesn't make perfect, it does at least make better. How do we practice? Of course, yeah, friends, family, you do your research on the internet, you come up with a quick research will help you come up with the most common questions. You give them to somebody and then you just ask them to ask you those questions. And that's how you practice. Path, I will hand you over.
Okay. Can you put in your, can you close the presentation?
Of course,
slide?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have several questions.
Okay.
Tenemos varias preguntas.
Adelante.
Preguntan, ¿por qué es importante no ir al lado negativo cuando el entrevistador te pregunta por tu experiencia en tu anterior empresa?
Vale, perfecto. Cuando tenemos un amigo o una amiga que siempre cuando quedamos con él, siempre habla de las cosas negativas en su vida, ¿qué hacemos? Probablemente dejamos de quedar con él o con ella. Entonces, con un entrevistador, si nos preguntan por unas experiencias negativas, el entrevistador o la entrevistadora directamente va a pensar, vale, sí, lo que me cuentas igual es verdad, pero igual tienes parte de la culpa. Entonces es mejor evitar totalmente, 100%, como decía antes, incluso si la culpa es de la empresa. La empresa me echó de forma injustificada. Vale, voy a contar solamente la parte positiva. Yo puedo decir perfectamente que pues, de mi último trabajo me han echado, pero my key takeaway here is my positive experience, and that's it. Porque nadie quiere oír cosas negativas en general. Y lo que os decía antes del ejemplo era, si una persona se queja mucho, pues entonces tomamos cierta distancia. Y aparte de esto, es la primera impresión, es la primera toma de contacto con el entrevistador o la entrevistadora y hay que dejar buen sabor de boca.
Muy bien. ¿Y qué preguntas nunca se deben hacer cuando el entrevistador te propone que le preguntes algo de la empresa?
Eso es muy fácil. Salario, vacaciones. Eso es muy fácil.
Vale.
Nunca empezar directamente con el salario o las vacaciones o también cosas negativas, ¿no? Cuando nos dicen qué preguntas tienes acerca de la empresa, intentamos siempre preguntar cosas que tengan que ver con nuestro puesto de trabajo. Y si no, por ejemplo, hay un proceso muy grande y no sabemos en qué puesto de trabajo vamos a acabar, perfectamente le podemos preguntar al entrevistador o la entrevistadora qué destacarías o qué te gusta a ti como trabajador de esta empresa. Obviamente, si no es una consultora de recursos humanos y la persona que nos entrevista pertenece a la empresa mismo, ¿qué te gusta de esta empresa? ¿Qué te gusta de su filosofía, de su cultura? Once again, para dejar un buen sabor de boca. Path, you are muted. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. ¿Es importante ser totalmente sincero en la entrevista? Incluso si estoy nervioso, inseguro o no me veo del todo preparado.
Por supuesto. Obviamente, no todos sabemos hablar en público y a veces estas situaciones nos pueden generar cierto estrés. Dicho esto, es importante la preparación, ¿de acuerdo? Pero también no pasa absolutamente nada si estamos en una entrevista de trabajo y si nos preguntan, decir, estoy un poco nervioso. Incluso ayuda a relajar un poco el ambiente porque estás siendo sincero o sincera. El entrevistador te ve como persona vulnerable y seguramente, o en el 99% de los casos, va a tener piedad. Va a tener piedad quiere decir que no te va a presionar mucho o va a ir poco a poco con las preguntas. Al fin y al cabo somos humanos y mostrar esta vulnerabilidad pues ayudará en la entrevista. Otras cosas pueden ayudar, como por ejemplo lo que hemos dicho al final, ¿no? Practice, 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 practice. If it doesn't make perfect, once again, it will at least make you better.
Muy bien, perfecto. Entonces, respecto a cómo afrontar una entrevista en inglés, desde la Diputació de Barcelona, ¿hay en estos momentos algún recurso, algún curso?
Bien, claro, me has dicho antes que nos sigue gente de diferentes puntos, tanto del Estado como si no me equivoco, era Salvador. Claro, desafortunadamente no tienen acceso a ciertos recursos. Esta misma conferencia la damos con ayuntamientos, pero claro, es un curso que dura 10 horas. Entonces, todo esto que acabamos de decir, pues ahondamos un poco más. Lo que sí que esto ya lo habíamos hablado antes con Marta, es preparar un pequeño pack para los participantes en esta conferencia y les llegará con ciertos recursos de forma que pueden ellos y ellas utilizar de forma autónoma para practicar. Pero recursos, si no estáis aquí en la Diputación, en la provincia de Barcelona, esos recursos sería un poco difícil tener acceso a ellos.
Vale. ¿Y para la gente que está en Barcelona? Ahí
Para
esta
la
conferencia,
gente,
dices.
para la gente que está en Barcelona, de momento la tenemos. Este curso lo tenemos con el Ayuntamiento de Llinars del Vallès, entonces es simplemente ponerse en contacto con ellos y si hay plazas, apuntarse.
Molt bé. També ens agradaria preguntar-te, en una entrevista de feina, com sé jo que l'entrevistador que m'està fent l'entrevista sap anglès?
Doncs mira, es difícil de saber. ¿Por qué? Porque en una entrevista de trabajo, si la persona que tengo delante obviamente no interactúa conmigo, no voy a saber si sabe inglés o no. Porque muchas veces requieren que el candidato o la candidata sepa inglés, ¿de acuerdo? Pero nos hacen aquella típica pregunta de, pues cuéntame algo sobre ti en inglés. En este caso, solo lo que quieren ver es la fluidez. Pero nos encontramos con que la mayoría de los entrevistadores o entrevistadoras no saben inglés. Entonces, yo simplemente tengo que hacer lo que me piden y no me tengo que preocupar por si saben inglés, o no. Me han pedido presentarme en inglés. Voy a obviar totalmente si la persona que me está entrevistando me va a estar juzgando o no, o sabe menos o más inglés que yo. Pero claro, obviamente damos por supuesto que si alguien me pide decir algo en inglés es porque sabe. No siempre, el caso no siempre es así. Normalmente, si el perfil que piden requiere el idioma, si el perfil que piden requiere el idioma y el entrevistador o la entrevistadora no domina el inglés, pues su recurso, por ejemplo, pues son consultores como yo. Voy a la entrevista, formo parte del equipo. Si la entrevista tiene que ser total entrevista en inglés, a mí me dejan las preguntas, yo hago las preguntas, me explican un poco lo que necesitan, yo lo repaso y hago las preguntas. Aparte, a raíz de esto viene otra recomendación. Por favor, nunca mentir con el nivel de inglés en el currículum. Nunca, en absoluto. ¿Por qué? Pues porque igual hay 3 casos. La persona que os entrevista no sabe inglés y no os va a hacer ninguna pregunta, pero luego ya se verá. La persona que os hace la entrevista sabe inglés y nos quedamos en una situación muy, muy violenta, o viene un consultor, en este caso como yo, por ejemplo, os hace la entrevista en inglés y os puedo decir perfectamente hace poco en una empresa multinacional textil, en un proceso o en una oferta que había que teníamos igual 400 candidatos. Claro, a través del Applicant Tracking System nos quedamos con 50 de 48 entrevistas, 4 personas tenían el nivel que decían. Fijaos, de 48 entrevistas, solo 4 tenían exactamente el nivel que ellos o ellas decían. Y claro, ahí, para no hacer ridículo y perdonad la expresión.
I de totes les ofertes de feina en les que es demana anglès, en quines realment es necessita? És en totes que es necessita bon nivell d'anglès?
Normalment, quan ens demanen anglès en una oferta de feina, és perquè realment el necessiten. Això no vol dir que serà un idioma vehicular del dia a dia, d'acord? O sigui, potser el farem servir un cop cada 3 mesos, però en aquell cop que el farem servir serà potser una ocasió molt important, molt crucial, molt primordial per l'empresa. Doncs cada 3 mesos l'empresa contacta amb un proveïdor d'Estats Units, de Canadà, de Finlàndia, de Noruega, però és que, clar, aquell moment de contacte amb aquella persona és molt important per l'empresa. Aleshores, si preguntem, ens diuen, bueno, l'anglès el necessites, però el faràs servir poc. Però és que encara que sigui poc, és molt important. I això ve el que comentàvem abans. Veiem la descripció del lloc de feina i al final posen tal nivell d'anglès, però potser la feina ja l'havies fet abans i no havies fet servir mai anglès. I automàticament pensaríem, doncs és que per què m'ho demanen si jo ja sé, si aquesta és la meva feina. Jo soc, per exemple, mecànic i no he fet servir mai l'anglès. Bé, doncs potser en aquesta feina, en aquest lloc de feina en particular, cada 3-4 mesos han de parlar amb el proveïdor a Alemanya i t'encarregaràs tu d'això. Aleshores, allà precisament és on es veurà si dominem l'idioma o no. I com dèiem abans, no cal quedar-se en una situació que és més o menys violenta. Escolta, en l'entrevista ens vas dir que sabies anglès, ara resulta que no. És una situació que probablement no acabarà al vostre favor.
Però, clar, també pot passar que pels nervis es cometin errors gramaticals o que et bloquegis. No sé, fins a quin punt això es té en compte.
Per descomptat, com dèiem abans, un entrevistador o una entrevistadora, penseu que són persones expertes en recursos humans i saben moltíssim de psicologia. Saben que en una situació així de potser tensa o de molta pressió, una persona es pot equivocar. Això és fàcil no és fàcil de solucionar, sinó, per exemple, a través de la carta de presentació o del currículum, aquestes coses les podem solucionar. Una carta de presentació ben escrita que reflecteixi el teu nivell, encara que, per exemple, en el currículum posi C1 o C2, i el dia de l'entrevista aquella persona es posa molt nerviosa per l'idioma, que de vegades ens posem nerviosos en català i castellà. Imagineu-vos en anglès. Doncs, si ens posem nerviosos, intentarem després, amb un follow-up email, amb un correu de seguiment, doncs dir-ho, potser dir em vaig posar nerviós, demano perdó, etc., però amb un estil i amb una finura potser o amb una delicadesa que mostri el nostre nivell. I això també us puc assegurar que si abans de l'entrevista heu enviat el vostre currículum i la vostra carta de presentació, en l'estil i com es redacta, això ja es veu.
Perfecte. Aquí tenim una pregunta que diu How can we reach excellence in a job interview?
Well, to reach excellence in a job interview, it depends, of course, on the process, on you, and on your qualifications. The basic premise here is if you apply for a job, you're fit for the job, okay? You don't apply willy-nilly, as we say in English. You don't apply for a job willy-nilly. So you open up LinkedIn, there's a ton of job, you just start applying. Of course, first of all, the premise, as I said, you apply for a job that you are fit for. That's one. Of course, now, how to reach excellence in the interview, you do your research and your practice. I think these are the two most valuable advice I could give. Do your research on the company, on the job position itself, and practice and practice and practice. You print out, I don't know, 100 questions, probably 200 questions, and then you try to practice each and every answer to each and every question. And I think that's if it's not the only path to excellence, that's probably the correct path or the best path to excellence in a job interview.
So that's all. Desde nuestro lado, por nuestra parte, por nuestros asistentes. Do you want to say something else, Azar?
Well, I would like to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and thank you for your questions. Best of luck.
Thank you. Gràcies, Azar Majdoub, de la Diputació de Barcelona, per aquesta interessant intervenció i per ser avui amb nosaltres.
Molt bé.
Adéu.
Adéu.